Now, for centuries, knitting was more of an art than a science.
Lies. So many lies. Hi, I'm Carson. I'm a machine knitter. Welcome to my channel and to my knitting studio. I prefer to spend my time recreating historically and culturally significant sweaters, but today we're reacting to the SciShow knitting episode. I haven't seen all of this. I got to the point of knitting and purling and programming and promptly went on to something else. You see, I am also a software engineer. In fact, I work on open source knitting machine software. This is my mug from the Open Source Hardware Summit, where I gave a talk about AYAB, the project that I work on. I see a lot of bad takes, and if I interacted with all of them, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. But y'all asked for this, so we're doing it. Time to suffer.
One of the oldest knit objects in the world is a sock. That's about 800 years old. It was a...
Okay, first, if this is what I'm thinking of, that sock is not knit. Okay, so there are two things it could be. These are the Egyptian socks from 300 to 500. I'm assuming that's AD. So that would have been more than 800 years ago. And then this 12th century sock, so it's about 800 years old. So this one is actually a Fair Isle sock. Okay, so it wasn't that wrong.
Simple thing, a pattern of knots in the shape of a cylinder with a bend toward the end for the heel. But it was also the start of something revolutionary, a technology that could take a simple string and transform it into a useful 3D object. Now,
so weaving has been around for a lot longer and can also take string and turn it into two-dimensional objects, which then can be turned into three-dimensional objects. I'll let that one go, though.
Perhaps knitting doesn't fill you to the brim with excitement.
False.
I get this, but you know who is excited about knitting? Physicists. Because by decoding the patterns of stitches that create different shapes, they can figure out how to knit.
Why did they use B-roll where someone dropped a stitch and not talk about it?
All kinds of complex 3D fabrics. And I'm not talking about fancy toe socks. They're designing fabrics that could transform medical bandages, soundproofing materials, and a whole lot more, and they sent us some to show you. So stick around for that. And making these fabrics is simple, at least in theory. All you do is create loops in a piece of string and pull one loop through the next, one row at a time. You can either pull the loop from the back to the front to create a little V shape, which is the knit stitch, or from front to back to make a little bump, which is called a purl stitch. It's actually a little like programming, but with yarn. You have two kinds of inputs, and you can combine them in an endless number of ways to make fabrics.
Oh boy. I mean, technically, that's correct. If you have knit and purl stitches, you can combine them to make different kinds of textures of fabrics. But also, that is not all there is to knitting. Especially, like, if you're looking at this in the context of machine knitting, you have tuck stitches, slip stitches, and then, like, kind of two-color and more work, which creates significantly more interesting fabric and texture and, like, behaviors than just knit and purl stitches. And they must not have been looking at this through a machine knitting lens, because alternating knit and purl stitches is actually very difficult on knitting machines. Even industrial machines have to transfer back and forth between beds. So why are they looking at this from a hand knitting context instead of a machine knitting context when they're talking to researchers who I know primarily work with machines? Let's see where this goes.
That look and behave totally differently. Certain patterns of stitches naturally like to curve in specific ways, and they do this consistently. For instance, if you make anything with all knit stitches on its front side called stockinette stitch, the top and
traditionally, that's the back.
Bottom will curl toward...
No, he's talking about the right thing, but then the image is wrong.
The top and bottom will curl toward you, while the sides will curl away.
Let me verify. Do you have swatches over here? That is accurate.
But even though centuries of knitters figured out how to make all sorts of patterns through trial and error, how it all works was mostly a mystery. Knitted yarn creates its own sort of force field. This happens because wherever two pieces of yarn cross each other, each one wants to be in the same spot. As you knit together patterns of knit and purl stitches, you create a field of different forces that really sculpt the fabric into different shapes.
Something he's not addressing here is how the twist of the yarn impacts the way it behaves. all of these sample images shown here are traditional, like, multiply spun, probably wool and cotton fibers. But when you get to monofilament, it behaves differently. When you have unspun fibers, they behave very differently. And it would be an interesting analogy with stacking energy and organic chemistry, but I don't have enough organic chemistry to comment here.
All of these fabrics, with their ridges and zigzags and bubbles, were made of some combination of knit and purl stitches. Now, for centuries, knitting was more of an art than a science.
Lies. So many lies.
But then the physicists showed up.
Yes, physics saved us. So much technology has gone into the industrial commercialization of knits, to the point that, like, I don't know if they know this, I don't know if they did the research, like, knitting machines are 300 years older than sewing machines. They've been around for a long time, and the technology has evolved significantly over that time period. And even the stuff that's available to consumers, like, this machine was made in the early 90s, but the oldest machine we support for my open source software that I work on was made in, like, 1980. So, like, we have computerized machines for home domestic use, and the industrial stuff is significantly more complicated to make all kinds of cool stuff.
2025 study, a team of them based in Philadelphia wanted to understand how a certain knitted pattern would translate to a shape.
There's significantly older research. There's a paper that came out of Disney years ago. Let me find it. I think the Jim McCann worked on this one. There we go. Compiler for 3D machine knitting. Yep, it's Jim McCann. For those of you unfamiliar, Jim McCann runs the machine knitting lab at Carnegie Mellon and works on open source software for industrial knitting machines. And I really want to go visit and try to get a job there. But when was this published? SIGGRAPH 2016. They were building three-dimensional structures in kind of a generic way.
But these researchers needed a way to model all of this. To do that, they turned to a theory that engineers use to understand how thin, curved structures like bridges and submarines will react to the forces exerted on them. It's called the theory of thin shells. Now, that might seem like a reach, but it turned out to be pretty useful. They used the theory to create a computer model that would predict how different knit patterns will behave based on the different forces acting on them. And using this model...
Now that I see this, I think somebody sent me this paper. Let me see if I can find it. This is geometric modeling of knitted fabrics. I don't know if this is physics related. Oh no, this is thin shells. It was published in 2025. And this has been in my inbox for a few months. So I've seen this and, like, would love to recreate some of this. So doing these kind of knit and purl stitches is really difficult on a domestic machine. It's a little easier on industrial machines because they can do their own transfers between the beds. Knitting machines only knit in one direction, so you need a second bed to knit in the other direction, which is what this is. This is a double bed machine. But there is an accessory for domestic brother machines that are standard gauge called the garter carriage. And I put a lot of effort last year into getting the garter carriage to work correctly with AYAB, which is the open source software that I work with. So now you can just do your knit and your purl stitches with this thing that walks itself across the bed and reform stuff. I'll link to a couple of videos about it. But I should be able to recreate this kind of folding technique on my machines.
They were able to map out a bunch of different stitch samples.
That's not just knit and purl. There's some racking patterns in here. I assume it's racking. It could be transfers, but this kind of back and forth stuff. The bottom bed moves back and forth a few stitches. And especially on industrial machines, it can move a little farther.
And here is a sample of some of those knit stitches. This one is, I don't know. I can't believe this is just knitting. It looks like there's a stitch in here, but there's not. If you pull
just, like, every once in a while, take a look at the clothing that you buy at the store. Take a look at the sweaters that are available to you. It should not be a surprise that a textile exists.
Pull it tight. It's just knits and purls. But you might not want to, like, make a sweater out of these patterns, and that's okay, because scientists have much bigger plans. We've been good at sweaters for a while. Honestly, what are we going to do there? They're already great. But by programming knitted fabrics to have specific properties, self-folding can do a whole lot more than keep you cozy. One type of self-folding fabric is called auxetic fabric.
Yeah, that's an industrial knitting machine. That is fabric coming out between the takedown rollers of an industrial machine.
And it expands in one direction. It also expands in the perpendicular direction. Some other researchers are eyeing this technology from the field of wearable electronics. The ones that are integrated into clothing need to be able to stretch and bend in really precise ways. And simple knit patterns could help engineers level up these designs. So soon, knitted material...
Okay, so as someone who's worked with wearable electronics, is oversimplified a lot of large problems. You have to take into account weight and how you're running all of your power and your ground lines. And yes, knitting could help, but there are also a lot of limitations. Like, this is poorly explained.
And what all this goes to show is that modern science isn't the only way of developing sophisticated technology. Knitting evolved purely through intuition and trial and error, but those knit patterns that emerged from generations of knitters...
Jesus Christ. It bothers me that, like, they downplay the hand knitters. They downplay the people who have been working on this stuff for hundreds of years at this point, thousands of years maybe, that, like, oh, you're just trying things and figuring stuff out, but now, like, science has arrived and it's going to make it better. When the reality is that modern computing evolved out of textile manufacturing, and, like, so much science and engineering has gone into the, like, art and production of knitting for so many years. And they've just glossed over that and, like, downplayed it and said, like, modern science is gonna, like, get something useful out of this, when that is not the case.
Tipped off scientists that there might be something useful here. In the end, we have ancient skills and modern science working together to create something that neither could have done alone.
Bullshit. So I already filmed an ending to this video, but I was angry and upset, so I took a day to gather my thoughts, and here they are in a more coherent form. So here's what I think happened. I think someone at SciShow saw the original paper, the same one that was sent to me, about geometric modeling in knitted fabric, and decided to make a video about it. And then they did a bunch of academic research, which is reflected in the notes attached to the video. But to explain what's going on, they had to give a lot of context on knitting and how knitted fabrics behave, and that's where they fell short. They managed to make that explanation condescending, offensive, and mostly wrong. Which is really disappointing, because there's interesting information going on here. They just presented it in such a way that pissed off the entire knitting community. When you do it, it's a cute little craft with trial and error. When we do it, it's science, and it provides value to the world. Ew, who wants to knit sweaters? They ignored a few hundred years of history, the contributions of hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and the cultural importance of knitting. And I fully understand having to tailor your explanations to the audience. When I gave a talk about knitting machines to an audience of engineers at the Open Hardware Summit, I started with 6,000 years of history, because in the modern world we are so far divorced from the manufacture of our textiles and clothing that people don't understand anymore what goes into it. A lot of people can't tell the difference between knit and woven fabric, and don't understand all of the, like, very impressive engineering that has gone into large-scale manufacturing of our clothing. I've had many engineers very confidently explain punch cards to me and just get it completely wrong. Knitting has a significant technical barrier to entry, not for gatekeeping reasons, but because you need to be able to read a knitting pattern. And knitting patterns have a particular structure with a lot of symbol substitution and repeat from here to here, and on odd rows, if you're knitting this size, do this thing differently. And you wind up with a lot of the same control flow and loops that you see in software. I fully believe that if you can read a knitting pattern, and in particular if you can write a knitting pattern, you can probably learn to code. It's the same kind of thing. So we wind up with a hobby full of very technical people, and they are all pissed. Rightly so, because you've said the things that we bring to the world are not important, that they don't provide value, and that's not okay. SciShow has a big platform, and with great influence comes great responsibility. And instead of doing a little more research to better understand how this would land, they very confidently said, "We don't value what you do, you don't belong here." So I'm angry and sad, but not surprised, because in the modern world, knitting is women's work, despite all of the history and all of the men involved. And culturally, women's work is undervalued. So the SciShow, I would like to say, fuck you. And to anyone else out there watching who's working on a piece of knitting-related content, blog posts, articles, videos, my email's in the description. If you have questions about history or engineering or community related to knitting, I'm happy to help. A few emails could save you the wrath of the entire knitting community. If I can't help you, I probably know who can. I'm actually in Discords with most of the academics doing things with knitting machines. The community is not that big. To the rest of you, if you want to see me try to do this topic justice, let me know in the comments. I have the context and the tools to actually understand what's going on, attempt to explain it to the world, and then reproduce some of the samples that they made in the original paper. I want to say thank you to channel members who make videos like this possible. If you'd like to become a channel member, you can click the join button down below. All channel members get early access to new videos, and channel members at the mid-tier and higher get access to members-only videos. There's a lot of yarn unboxings and projects that almost were but didn't come to be, and I have a big secret project coming up soon. I'm still editing the videos for that, but it is coming. So if that's your thing, go check it out. Thanks for watching. Happy knitting.